So you've just got to be a little bit sneaky with that, overcomplicate it. So I stuck to my guns, made the whole experience 10 times easier by doing this. Hello guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video I wanted to give you my tips on how to get an A star in A-level photography. I have already filmed one for how I got an A star in psychology, and that video is doing really well. I'm actually so shocked that it's got over 300 views, so I thought that I would do a photography one because I think that particularly at the moment these are really important videos and really useful videos for people doing their A-levels, because you haven't got that constant connection with your teachers, and I don't know, maybe having this video as a reference point for you to come back to can be useful for you. So I thought that I would make this, and also I love giving my tips about how to do well in things, so that's why I'm doing this video. I've come up with 4 main tips that I think really helped me to succeed in photography, and things that can just sort of help you in general, whether you're striving for an A star or whether you just want to do well in photography. So let's go on with the video. Before we get started on this video, I did just also want to say that I haven't got my coursework to show you at the moment. That is coming in a future video, but because of obviously everything that's happened, I haven't been able to pick it up yet. So that's why this video is also in part overdue, because I was waiting for my coursework, but I thought that I would get my tips in a separate video and then show my coursework in another one. I will put a few pictures on the screen as I go through of some of my coursework, just as an example. But I basically focused on historical architecture throughout the majority of my 2 years at college. Well, 1.5 years. It got cut short because of the pandemic. But basically I don't really know how I fell into historical architecture, and it wasn't particularly my passion or anything like that, but I was good at it and my pictures looked really good and effective, so I just sort of stuck at it and thought, let's do this for coursework. It was also tied in with the fact that my family and I love to sort of go to cities and look at and just shop around and look around at the different cities like Bath, London, Winchester, places like that, that have a lot of architecture in them already. So that kind of led the focus of my photography, and a lot of the places I did visit were religious, and I'm not religious at all, but the buildings were so impressive that I could not show them, and they were so impactful in pictures that it just did really well. But that's just a side note that I wanted to explain before we actually get on with the tips. I wanted to say that before I had started this A-level, I had never picked up a camera before, so I had no experience, and I did not expect to get an A star in this, but it just shows that with these tips and the right mindset you can achieve anything. Okay, so my first tip is simplicity is key. When I first started photography, I came in late because I switched courses around a little bit, and the teachers would give me examples of ex-students' work, and I would just be blown away by how elaborate and, I don't know, complex their shoots were, with loads of different props and different themes and just loads of technical editing which went far beyond my capabilities at the time. I quickly realised that I didn't need to necessarily do a load of heavy editing on my pictures or use a load of extensive props in order to do well in photography, and that's something that I urge you to bear in mind, is that a person with loads of different themes and a wacky idea isn't necessarily going to be the best or most impressive photographer or do the best in photography. I became known for my simple black and white editing, and it became a running joke that people would ask me how I was going to edit my pictures, and I'd always say black and white, because particularly for my area of photography, like architecture, black and white is so striking and just more impactful than colour. and I think it does lend itself to architectural photography and just makes your pictures look so much more impressive. I'd rather let the picture do the speaking rather than adding loads of editing onto it to create a story that wasn't there. Don't get me wrong, that if you have those skills, brilliant, but I just didn't have them, so I worked to my skills of being able to really manipulate camera raw and black and white to look really, really bold and effective. Yeah, my number one tip is just don't overcomplicate it and work to your skills. And certainly in the second year, like when you have to come up with your initial ideas for coursework and for the exam part, I got really like worried because I didn't know what I was going to do. I wanted to do portraiture, and like that's what everyone else was doing. They were all doing portraiture, like fashion shoots. But I didn't have the friends and I didn't have the time to start planning in a load of outfits and arranging shoots with other people. So I stuck to my guns and kept it simple and did what I could do. Okay, and then my second tip is to research. Once you've got your initial ideas and sort of themes of things that you want to do, research. I cannot tell you how important it is to research. And what I did for this was I went on Pinterest and just searched up historical architecture, cathedral photography, architectural photographers, and I created mood boards around that. And it helped me to get a rough scope of what I liked and what pleased me visually, and it also allowed me to have in mind things that I'd like to replicate in my own shoots, so that my pictures weren't always just my own thoughts, they were other people's, like perhaps more impressive ideas. So that is something that I would strongly recommend you do, because it allows you to understand what you like about that. It can help you to narrow in your search, but it can also help you to broaden your skills, because I know for me, I initially just started taking simple pictures along like the nave of a cathedral or just of a certain wall, but because I searched on Pinterest, I found photographers like Peter Lee and Peter Marlowe, and they did like panoramic photography where you sort of stitched together the picture and you could see the ceiling and the nave, so it gave a more visually impactful picture. And the pictures that I managed to get because I was inspired by them, I think were the reason why I was so successful in my A-level, because it went just that little bit beyond just simply taking a picture of the ceiling. It goes without saying that my tip number 3 is organisation, and I think this is true for any A-level. If you aren't organised, how can you expect to reach your full potential? One of the key things that I did was I got my shoots done early. I know that for a lot of people that isn't possible, but for mine it required me to travel a lot. I went to Bath, Wales, London, not Wales as in Wales, as in Wells, which is near Bath, Winchester, Chichester, Salisbury, Romsey, places like that, because you had to do a lot of shoots in the second year, and I just needed to organise where I was going to go, when I was going to go as well. Which leads me on to the next point of this tip. I used the holidays for all they were worth. So they would set us maybe to do 2 shoots in a holiday, but I did like 3 or 4. And I would honestly recommend you trying to do your shoots as early as possible and use your holidays. So what I did was I did all my shoots way in advance of when they were due, so that I didn't have to panic and worry that I wasn't going to meet the deadline for when we actually needed the shoots. I understand that this is probably not possible for everyone, but if you can, do as many shoots while you've got the time and the spare time in the holidays, because when it gets to the term and you've got other A-levels to worry about, like for me I had to do psychology revision and lots of work for psychology, and then English lit revision and lots of work for that during the week I just had no time whatsoever. So I was clever and sensible on myself and got it done when I had the time. It made the whole experience 10 times easier by doing this. And then my fourth And final tip, I guess, is to exaggerate your writing. Now, if you're on an A-level course for photography, you'll know you have to do a lot more writing than you probably anticipated, and you really do need to just use your words. And one thing that I did, and I think this has been part because I did also do an A-level in English Lit, I looked for meaning where I had never intended it to be. I really milked things like symbolism. Symbolism is such a good thing to milk, and it sounds so sophisticated, even if you're talking absolute rubbish. It sounds like you know what you're talking about. It sounds like you've put a lot of thought into your pictures. For example, where I was doing a religious architecture in a way, I would focus on the symbolism of God quite a lot, even though I'm not religious. But so I would talk about how the leading lines of the nave would draw you in, almost like you were being drawn towards God, and things like that. They just sound so sophisticated and poncy that you can't not succeed and sound like you know what you're talking about and that you intended that to be the case. Or where I was, and particularly where I was doing black and white photography, I would talk about how the high and low key tones of the image intensified the glorious monument of the places of worship that were for God. And just saying it like that now just sounds so like I know what I'm talking about, but I really didn't. I just used my words and looked for meaning where there wasn't. And I would always urge you to, if you can find deeper meaning, talk about it. Talk about it so much, because they really appreciate that. And the thing that goes along with this is that when you're writing about your shoots and you have to do like the analysis and summary sort of things, don't just talk about the pictures. Along with this, talk about what you've learned and what you're going to do differently next time. So for each shoot, look at it as a learning curve for how you're going to improve your abilities as a photographer. So in each shoot, in a way, I'd try to look for something wrong, even if there wasn't something wrong, and I'd write about it and be like, next time I'm going to do this. And something that I did sneakily do, which really helped actually just thinking about it, is where I had taken I literally did loads of shoots in 1 week. I picked something that was wrong with the first shoot but that was right with the second shoot, and would pretend that I had made that change and showed progression in my photography. So you've just got to be a little bit sneaky with that and make it seem like you are out to learn from your mistakes and learn from experiences in each shoot. Because trying to enhance your photographic knowledge and skills is going to look like an A-star quality where you're going above and beyond the expected level. Other than that, I think that's kind of the main points. Obviously there's things like go with your own style, don't go with other people's style, do what's in your realm, because at the end of the day it's a 2-year course that's you're gonna be focusing on it a lot, and if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're gonna get bored. I didn't particularly love historical architecture and I did get a little bit bored, but I found that as I was doing better and I could see myself visually doing better, it made it less boring. But just do something that you enjoy. But other than that, that is the end of the video. I hope that you found some of these tips useful. If you'd like to see one for English Lit, I'm not sure if I can help you on that one. No. If you'd like to see one on English Lit, then let me know down below. If you'd like to also see my photography coursework, then let me know down below. But other than that, that's the end of the video. I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.